What's up, everybody? Hope you're having a good Sunday. I know I am. Ready to watch the Cubs here in a couple of hours. But before that, I wanted to make a video that is going to be a mainstay on this channel when the season actually kicks off. You're going to get one of these a week up until pretty much the Super Bowl, and that's the power rankings video. I'm sure you guys have seen the power rankings. You guys have read the articles on like NFL or ESPN, ranking all the teams 1 through 32, moving up and down depending on the week, depending on transaction, depending on everything like that. But in this video, we are going to be doing a pre-draft NFL power rankings video. Now, again, obviously these are subject to change. A lot of teams who could have a really good draft could move up a few spots. Some teams, if they, make some trades to give away some assets or players, they could move down a few spots. But generally, I think that teams are going to stay within 3, 4 spots of where they're at right now on my list, barring something pretty unusual. So we're going to go ahead and get into that. But before we do, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. We are on the road to 100, hoping to hit that Thursday night by the draft. Expect a lot of content on draft night. Very, very, very excited. All right. So we're going to start from the bottom. We're going to start from 32, the bottom feeders, and then we're going to go all the way up to number 1. So make sure you stay for the whole video if you want to see my reasoning for each team. So the 32nd team in this power rankings video is the Buccaneers. I'm really, really thinking the Buccaneers are going to be the worst team in the league this year. They're going to be captained by Baker Mayfield, which is a tragedy in and of itself. But, Baker Mayfield, not only, the receivers are getting older, the offensive line is deteriorating. The defense is getting much older. It's not the same elite unit that it was years ago. And with obviously Tom Brady leaving, you could easily see a pretty steep decline. All right, that's 32. Number 31, the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals are in an also similar shitty spot. The thing is that they do have a quarterback, but he's going to miss probably at least 10, 11, 12 games recovering from that torn ACL. Their second best player, DeAndre Hopkins, is likely to be dealt. And at this point, I'm just kind of struggling to figure out what they have. Their defense is absolutely putrid. Speaking of their defense, actually, Buda Baker also wants to get traded. So perhaps their best remaining offensive and defensive player will get dealt here in the coming days. And, J.J. Watt retired. Zach Allen left in free agency. Their defense is shot. Their offense is pretty devoid of talent outside of like maybe Marquise Brown. But I wouldn't consider him elite by any stretch of the imagination. So the Cardinals are in for a rough year. I also don't like. I forgot to mention this about the Buccaneers as well. Both of these coaches, I'm not a big fan of. I'm not a big fan of Todd Bowles and or Jonathan Gannon. So we'll see where that takes him. All right. Then number 30, we got another AFC NFC South team. We got the Saints. Again, the Saints. I just don't see it with the Saints. I know people try to tell me that they're going to be better. They're going to be a sneaky wild card team, whatever. I just don't see it. I'm not a big Derek Carr guy. I do think Chris Olave is really good, and I think Michael Thomas might have a bounce back year. But Dennis Allen to me is one of the worst head coaches in the game. Their defense is getting a lot older. Cam Jordan's not the same guy. Marshawn Lattimore, he's getting to that wrong side of 30, unfortunately. He's not there yet, but he's getting a little bit older. I could see them being a little bit better than 30. Maybe that's a little too mean, but I just don't see it with the Saints. I'm sorry, guys. Number 29, the Tennessee Titans. Rumors going around right now that they're going to trade Derrick Henry, who has been their entire offense for the past, 5, 6 years. That would be devastating. Their big question mark at quarterback right now is, can Malik Willis play? Will Ryan Tannehill be on the team? You really don't know. That defense is not elite on paper, but they always seem to play a little bit better than they are. And I think Mike Vrabel, I do think he's a good coach. He's probably out of all the coaches on this on of all the coaches in this bottom feeder tier, he's probably the best one. But unfortunately, they have just massive questions at quarterback, and they're going to trade away their best offensive player. So I just don't know. I think their offensive line also needs massive improvement as well. Number 28, the Rams. Again, speaking of good coaches, I do like Sean McVay as a coach, but the Rams are paying the price for winning that Super Bowl a few years ago, selling their souls. They could have really used that sixth overall pick right about now that Detroit currently has in the Matthew Stafford trade. And we're seeing the effects of not having picks for many years, right? They don't have many building blocks. Rumors are that Aaron Donald is retiring pretty soon here. Probably play 1 or 2 more years. They just dealt Jalen Ramsey, Matthew Stafford. How is the elbow? So there's a lot of question marks. Cooper Kupp's coming off an injury. They just traded away Allen Robinson. A lot of question marks here. That offensive line is putrid. It's gonna be a nightmare situation. So and they don't really have the assets to fix it, unfortunately, right now. So kind of a bad spot to be with the Rams. But again, you won that Super Bowl, so you can't really complain too much. Number 27, I have the Las Vegas Raiders. I think the downgrade from Derek Carr to Jimmy Garoppolo should be studied in the history books as one of the biggest downfalls since the Roman Empire. I think Jimmy G, I've said this for years, I think Jimmy G is awful. I don't know how he keeps finessing teams with these bags that he's been getting. I mean, he got one in San Francisco when he first got there. Now he just got one with the Raiders. I mean, 3 years, $66 million is about 65,999,999 more dollars than he probably should make playing quarterback in this league. Um, but, I think that that's pretty bad, and then, obviously, their defense was really bad last year. They traded away Darren Waller. They added Jacoby Myers, which is I mean, he's aight, but he's nothing special, so I just don't see now the Raiders, I will say, if the Raiders manage to get one of these good rookie quarterbacks at number 7, they could move up a couple of spots, but as it stands right now, I just don't see it with the Raiders, unfortunately. Number 26, the Colts. The Colts are a bad team. I mean, that's not really a controversial statement, I wouldn't hope. They're picking 4th overall, so they're going to take a quarterback. My guess at this current moment is CJ Stroud. And I think CJ Stroud will get them to be a little bit better, but I don't expect CJ Stroud to make the playoffs as a rookie. That roster still has massive holes all over it. And, they're rebuilding, and rebuilds don't take a year. To make my second Rome example, Rome wasn't built in a day. They're going to have to take a few years. They're going to probably improve by a few wins in the win column, but I don't think anything spectacular. And I don't imagine them becoming a playoff contender this season. Maybe, next year, 2024, 2025, we could talk about it. But this year, I think they're still in the process of rebuilding. They have a lot of um, pieces that they need to figure out, and quarterback would be the most important one. So hopefully they figure that out at number 4. Similarly, the Texans at 25, they are maybe going to take a quarterback at 2. My current guess would be Will Levis, but I would not be surprised if they go like Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson or either one of those guys. First year head coach with a bad team. Don't expect nothing crazy from the Texans this year. I think, again, it's more about building the blocks for the future, getting the team set up for success later down the line. Again, 25 would be a substantial improvement by a couple, probably 3 games from last year, which I think is tangible. Um, but again, don't expect the Texans to be a playoff team. There's a reason they're picking 2nd overall. Probably should be picking 1st overall this year. They're just not a very good team. Number 24, the Atlanta Falcons. Again, kind of similar with the Titans. I just don't know what they're doing at quarterback. I think they're going to roll with Desmond Ritter, but my question more so is not who's going to start. It's why is he going to start? Desmond Ritter, because I was not big on Desmond Ritter coming out of the draft last year. He played a little bit last year. I wasn't too impressed with him. So, you know, you're going to give him the keys to the offense, and that's fine, I guess. I think this is more of a situation where they just don't have the assets to go get a quarterback to where they have so much confidence in Desmond Ritter to play quarterback. But, he's going to be the guy this year. I think their defense is not very good, and I think that their weapons are actually pretty decent. I like Drake London. I like Kyle Pitts. I like Tyler Algier. I wouldn't be surprised if they take a Bijan Robinson here at number 8. I think they need to improve their offensive line a little bit, but defense is really where they need to spend the most amount of time at. So that's what I would say for them. Number 23, I have the Patriots. I'm not a big believer in the Patriots. I think they've been going downhill ever since Brady left. I know, hot take, right? The greatest quarterback leaves and your team starts to not be as good. But I am just not a big believer in Mac Jones, and that's coming from an Alabama fan. So, you could say what you want, but I've watched every game of Alabama football for the last 10 years. I was never that impressed with Mac. I'm still not impressed with Mac. He had a decent rookie year, so I thought maybe I was wrong, and then he's kind of fallen off the rails. Now, it is true to say that last year wasn't fair for him, not having an offensive coordinator. He had, the committee of defensive coaches calling the plays, and that's just not fair. So now he's got Bill O'Brien, who, coached at Alabama for a couple of seasons. I think he just missed Max. I believe Sark was the offense coordinator in 20, the year that Mac won the Natty, and then Mac left for the draft. And then the next 2 years were Bryce Young and Bill O'Brien was the offense coordinator. So maybe he'll run a lot of the same concepts that Alabama ran. Maybe there'll be some familiarity there. So maybe we could see Mac Jones have a better year with Bill O'Brien. But again, I don't think Juju is a big name. It's a big name, but I don't think it's a big deal. So I have the Patriots there at number 23. Number 22, I have the Commanders. The Commanders, they're in a tough division. I think the Eagles, Cowboys, and Giants are 3, playoff. The Eagles and Cowboys especially are legit playoff contenders. Um, and you have a question mark at quarterback right now. The only thing is I think Ron Rivera is one of the most underrated coaches in the league, and I know the Commanders' defense will be solid this year. They re-signed Jonathan Allen. I'm sorry, they re-signed De'Aaron Payne. They still got Jonathan Allen. They're gonna have Chase Young rushing the passer, who's one of the best young pass rushers in the league. And my guess is they go corner at 16 in the likes of like a Joey Porter, maybe like a Deontay Banks, depends on who their preference is. But their defense is going to be good. Now, if Sam Howell can become what a lot of people thought he was going to be out of the draft. Obviously he's got Eric Bieniemy now, who is one of the best offensive minds of football, in my opinion. I think the Commanders could be a legit sneaky wild card team. And when we get into this kind of range that we're at right now, this kind of 16 to 21, 22 range, these are kind of the fringe playoff teams. So these are guys that I wouldn't be surprised if they make the playoffs, but they could also just miss it, if you know what I'm saying. So Commanders at number 22. Number 21 is the Jets. Now the Jets are an example of a team that would move up a couple of spots if they actually could complete that trade for Aaron Rodgers. But as the days go on, I'm getting less and less optimistic that that is going to be the case in a reasonable amount of time. But the Jets, they have a good young defense. Sauce Gardner, they got Quinnen Williams, they got DJ Reed, who I really like at corner. And I think they got good weapons on offense. Garrett Wilson was nice last year. Breece Hall was one of the steals of the draft before he got hurt. I think Mekhi Becton is going to come back and hopefully have a healthy year. It just all hinges on that quarterback spot. It just all hinges on how the play of the quarterback is. If they're able to get Aaron Rodgers, can he be the same old Aaron Rodgers that he's been? Um, or will he be what he's been recently, in the last year? So it all depends. I'm putting him at 21 just because they're a big question mark for me. Again, I could see them making the playoffs, and I could see them missing the playoffs. So it's kind of a good ranking to have them at 21. Number 20, I have the Browns. I do think Deshaun Watson will have a better season this year, having a full training camp, a full preseason, an offseason with the team. And obviously, he probably couldn't play much worse than he played last year. So whatever that's worth. But I still don't love their team. I think their defensive line outside of Myles Garrett is not very good. I did think they had a couple pretty good signings in free agency though, so maybe that will help it a little bit. I think their secondary could use some work. Greg Newsome's been okay, and obviously I think Denzel Ward is good, but they could use some linebackers, and they could use some more, I think, receivers as well. But that's going to be the Browns there at number 20. Number 19, I have the Panthers. I'm banking a little bit on Bryce Young being a great off rip, um, and maybe he's not. But I think the Panthers coaching staff is really good. I like Frank Reich. I like a lot of the guys they've surrounded him with. I like DJ Chark and Adam Thielen. Off rip, that's not a bad receiving core. And I think the thing with Bryce Young is we saw this at Alabama. I'd rather give Bryce Young a good offensive line than good receivers because he made a lot of plays with the bad receivers at Alabama. So if you could protect him, which I think the Panthers actually have a really good offensive line with Ike Ekwonu and all of them, youngins up there. I think that they could give him decent protection to where he could make plays and find open receivers. And then obviously they're in a weak division as well. The Saints, Bucks, and the Falcons are not going to be competing for the Super Bowl anytime soon. So the Panthers will probably have a easy road to win the South. Um, Next, we have the Packers. The Packers, again, it just all hinges on Jordan Love. I think he'll be decent. I don't think he'll be anything crazy one way or the other. But they are going into a phase where, they're not the same old Packers. They're not the same old dominant Super Bowl contender Packers. They're deteriorating a little bit. I did like Christian Watson, obviously, had a really good second half of the season last year. And Jordan Love, and I think A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones are good backs. But their offensive line is getting older. I think their defense is, especially their backfield, safety specifically, is getting pretty weak right now. So we'll see. I think they're definitely on the decline a little bit. But if Jordan Love is a stud, then this team could obviously make noise and make it to the playoffs. Number 17, I have the Broncos. As the world's biggest Russell Wilson fan, I am obligated to say that I think that he'll have a bounce back year, especially with Sean Payton, especially with the free agent acquisitions that they brought him, like Ben Cleveland and Mike McGlinchey, even though I don't think Mike McGlinchey is very good. But I do think Russell Wilson will have a bounce back year. He's not being coached by Nat Hackett anymore. So that's great. But I think the Broncos, they're in this weird spot where for a while, their defense was their forte, and then they got the quarterback, and now maybe their defense isn't as good with no Bradley Chubb, and I don't know, but I think that they have the ability to make the playoffs. The only thing is their division is really good. Chargers and Chiefs are really good. The Raiders suck, but Chargers and Chiefs are really good. So you got to play those guys 4 times the year. And I don't know. We'll see. I saw a lot of deterioration from Russell Wilson, but I'm hoping Sean Payton can revive him as much as possible, and maybe the Broncos can compete for the playoffs. Number 16, I have the Bears. Now, this is a hot take, and I know you're going to scream Illinois bias in the comments. I actually think the Bears will have a significantly improved team this coming year. I think the Bears, out of every team, will probably make the biggest jump. Again, I'm not saying they're going to compete for the Super Bowl. I'm not even saying that they might make the playoffs. I don't know that. But I think Justin Fields in year three will have a big leap. You finally give him a legit wide receiver one in DJ Moore. I'm sure in the draft, ninth overall, they're going to address either the defensive line or offensive line, two of the biggest weaknesses on the Bears right now. And you have a multitude of other picks to where the Bears can fill in holes in their roster. I think Justin Fields has shown superstar potential, and I think he realizes that in this year, and the Bears are a fringe playoff team this year. Number 15, I have the Steelers. Speaking of fringe playoff teams, it seems like every year the Steelers are a fringe playoff team. They never seem to finish below 500, which is good for Mike Tomlin. But I think the Steelers and their young guys take a little bit of a jump. I think Najee Harris has a kind of a bounce back year. He's kind of struggled early on last year. I think Kenny Pickett and George Pickens and Deontay Johnson are good, and they operate a successful offense. Um, I think that they probably go tackle at 17, whether that's Broderick Jones, Darnell Wright, Paris Johnson if he falls. I think they definitely go with a guy to support Kenny Pickett and protect him. And then obviously that defense is always going to be good with Mike Tomlin, J.J. Watt, Cam Hayward. They did lose some guys in free agency, but that's all right. I think that they'll fill those needs in the draft. So I have the Steelers at 16. I'm sorry, at 15. At 14, I have the Baltimore Ravens. I think Lamar Jackson will definitely play this year, and having Odell and Rashad Bateman will be probably the best receiving core that he's had throughout his whole tenure in Baltimore. Mark Andrews is obviously still one of the league's best tight ends. I think their offensive line is getting a little bit worse, though, so that's worrisome, and I don't trust their running backs just yet. But their defense is always solid. Their special teams is always really good with Justin Tucker. They're going to be a well-coached team. They're going to be tough. They're going to be physical. And I think if Lamar can have a mostly healthy season, these guys are definitely a lock for the playoffs. At number 13, I have the Giants. Now, I thought about putting the Giants a little bit lower than I did, just because I'm not a fan of Danny Dimes. But what I am a fan of is Brian Dable. I think Brian Dable is a really, really good head coach. Um, I think that he managed to squeeze everything he could out of Daniel Jones last year, and there's no indication that he won't do it again this year. So I have no reason to bump them significantly lower than I have had them. But I just think, there's a cap on what the Giants could do. I think they're a playoff team, but I don't think that they're going to make much noise. They beat the Vikings last year, and everyone kind of thought the Vikings were frauds, and then they were promptly put into their place by the Philadelphia Eagles in that divisional game. And that's kind of where I see them. I kind of see them as good enough to make the playoffs, but not really good enough to make any noise. Hence their number 13 ranking. Number 12, the Vikings, kind of the same thing. Although I think the Vikings are kind of like the Packers, where they're going down, in my opinion. Lost Adam Thielen in free agency. Kirk Cousins is getting a year older, and there's some stipulation about his contract and everything. But Jay Jeff is still awesome. They got Byron Murphy for their defense. I think he's a really good young corner. They signed Marcus Davenport. I'm sure they're going to go with a defensive player in the draft with their 23rd overall pick. And yeah, I just kind of see the Vikings as a team that's going down, but they're still a good team. I like Kevin O'Connell. I think he's a decent coach, so I will put them there. And number 11, I have my Seattle Seahawks. I think, Geno Smith had a breakout year last year, and I don't think it was an anomaly. I think he's just legitimately a good coach. You got a team with Pete Carroll, who's been one of the best coaches in the league since he's got to Seattle. You have a young core of Kenneth Walker, Charles Cross, Tariq Woolen, DK still young, kicking it. The Seahawks, they have dudes right now, right? The other important thing for the Seahawks, they have 4 picks in the top 52. Pick 5, pick 20, pick 37, and pick 52. Thank you, Russell Wilson. So they are able to absolutely load up on the high-level talent coming into this draft. I like Seattle at 11. You can call me biased because I'm a Seahawks fan. I don't care. I think that's where they should land. At number 10, damn. At number 10, I have the Detroit Lions. I don't think I'm as high on the Lions as a lot of teams are. Some people are saying that they're a sleeper Super Bowl team, and I'm going to pump the fucking brakes on that because I've been watching the Lions my whole life. I truly believe that they are one of the cursed franchises in the NFL, and so I don't anticipate them making it to the Super Bowl or even getting close, really. But I cannot deny that they do have a legit roster on paper. I have really come around to Dan Campbell. He's grown on me a little bit. Maybe it was Hard Knocks that really got me to like him, but Hard Knocks is probably what really got me. But listen, I think the only weakness that they really have right now is probably interior D lineman. And, Jared Goff was great last year. They signed David Montgomery in free agency. He's a workhorse running back. They still have DeAndre Swift, receiver. They got Jamison Williams, who is now suspended for 6 games, but whatever. They've got Amon-Ra St. Brown. Um, they might get another receiver in the draft. It's pretty good depth wise receiver draft. And then, defensive side of the ball, they got two good pass rushers. They've got, good corners now. They're probably going to take a corner at 6. CJ Gardner Johnson, they signed in free agency. So would not be surprised if they are a good team. But again, I just can't believe in the Lions. I'm sorry. I refuse to put the Lions above 10 in my power rankings. Number 9, have the Los Angeles Chargers. Listen, I'm a big believer in Justin Herbert. I know how it looks. Um, but I think that he is one of the truly elite quarterbacks. I think he's a top 5 quarterback in the league. And when you have a top 5 guy, you're always in contention. Now, I don't love their receivers. I don't love Austin Eckler at running back. I like parts of their defense. Um, so they need to improve that a little bit. But I think, with just a few tweaks here and there, they could legit be a really, really good team and a team that could be a sleeper team for the Super Bowl. But you want to talk about cursed franchises. I mean, the Chargers are also cursed. But I just like them. Their quarterback's much better though, which gives them an edge. Because in a do or die situation, who do you want, Jared Goof or do you want Justin Herbert? All I'm gonna say, right? Number 8, I have the Cowboys. The Cowboys to me seem to be like overrated every single year, but I really like Tony Pollard. I really like CeeDee Lamb. I think Dak is a good, not great quarterback. Their offensive line is obviously pretty good. Their defense really, really is impressive with me under Dan Quinn with Michael Parsons, Trayvon Diggs, um, all of those guys. So really like the Cowboys. The Cowboys could definitely make some noise, and they will be a tough team to beat. But I think that unfortunately they're just not. They're not there yet. They're like this close. They're not there yet, right? At number 7, I have the Miami Dolphins. Again, I'm a big believer in Tua. If he can stay healthy, this offense was lights out when he was healthy on the field. Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. Um, I think that they're going to put up points like a basketball team. Their defense got much better this year. They got Vic Fangio as defense coordinator. That is huge. They signed Jalen Ramsey as well. I mean, they are making moves, man. They are making moves. The Dolphins are a Super Bowl contending team if Tua can stay healthy and can stay on the field. The only problem is they have to face Buffalo in their division, which kind of sucks ass, but it is what it is, right? They almost beat them. They almost beat them in the playoff game with Skylar Thompson. So, whatever. Number 6 is the Jaguars. The Trevor Lawrence made a big leap in year 2 without the curse of Urban Meyer cast over him. Doug Peterson really has fit in this team, fit in that culture. He's really motivated the guys. They're gaining Calvin Ridley. I'm guessing they're going to go defensive, probably defensive back at 24 in the draft to improve that young secondary. But man, these Jaguars, they got close to beating the Chiefs at Arrowhead. There's a lot of good things going on in Jacksonville right now, so it's a good time to be a Jaguars fan. At number 5, I have the 49ers. Now, these top 5 teams are like the Super Bowl legit contending teams. Legit, legit. I have the 49ers at number 5. And you might be saying, well, the 49ers, they got a complete roster. They got all pros all over the offense. They got all pros all over the defense. Obviously, they did lose D'Amico Ryans, but Kyle Shanahan's still one of the best coaches in the league. So why aren't they above 5? It's because I can't trust their quarterback, man. I just can't do it. Brock Purdy to me is nothing special, and even if he was, he's coming off a torn elbow, which is just a terrible injury for quarterbacks. You have Sam Darnold, who has been ass his whole career. I don't care about this upside. Jordan Palmer has like a secret love affair with Sam Darnold, and it's so funny to me. Sam Darnold's ass. I'm sorry. And then Trey Lance, hasn't played football for 3 years, so it's really a huge question mark at quarterback, and quarterback is the spot that's held them back from being a dynasty, to be completely frank, the whole tenure of Kyle Shanahan. Now, if they had a quarterback, if they had like a Dak Prescott, they'd be the number 1 team in football, hands down, bar none. But they're not, and they're missing the most important position in the game, and I can't put them above 5 because of that. Number 4, though, is the Buffalo Bills, who the 49ers problem is that they don't get enough from their quarterback. The Bills problem is that they get too much from their quarterback. Josh Allen is playing like Superman out there. He's flying, he's trucking defenders, he's jumping over them, he's making all the throws. Okay, cool. I like that. You lost a couple guys in free agency. You lost Leslie Frazier as a D coordinator. I still think you're good. You probably got to get a number two receiver outside of Stephon Diggs. I could see like a Jordan Addison going in the draft. I think that would be a great fit. Um, but the Bills, again, there's a team I'm starting to worry about a little bit, but I can't put them out the top five just yet. They're starting to worry me. And then these three guys would all be smart bets to go win the Super Bowl. I'm going to start with number three, the Cincinnati Bengals. Need I continue? Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I think they're going to replace Joe Mixon this offseason, but that's still up to be debated. They did lose their safeties, which kind of suck, and their defense is probably going to take a little step back. But I still think Joe Burrow is one of the he's top three and he ain't three. Let's just say that. Um, you'll always have a chance when you have one of those guys. And, number two, the reigning Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs. Mahomes, I mean, I don't even need to say nothing. Travis Kelsey, who is getting a little bit older. They need to improve their receiving core a little bit, and they probably need to add a better pass rusher. Other than that, though, I think that this is a really good team, and Mahomes is the best player in the sport, probably the greatest player ever. So they're always going to be really fucking good. And then the number one team, for those of you out there who thought I forgot this team, they're the number one team. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. I know they lost the Super Bowl, and I don't much care. They're stacked everywhere. The Chiefs have a better quarterback by this much, but they're probably weaker in many areas than the Eagles. I mean, the Eagles have a great offensive line, defensive line. They have two really, really good receivers. Um, they have obviously Jalen Hurts is great. Their linebacking core is sus a little bit, but their secondary is really good. The Eagles are just the most complete team in football with a quarterback, which is what San Francisco doesn't have. So they're the number one team in football. But that is my pre-draft power rankings, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to check out more of the videos I'm going to be making this coming week. I'm going to be making draft stuff, going to be making everything like that. So make sure to stay tuned. I will catch you guys tomorrow. Peace out.